Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the Handweavers Guild of America, Textiles and Tea. We're so excited to have you here this afternoon. Today's sponsor is the Handweavers Guild of Connecticut. We appreciate them coming on and sponsoring this episode. What a wonderful guild. If you don't know much about them, you might want to check them out. Today, as always, we'll take questions for the last 15 minutes of the program. Please put your questions in the Q&A. I know last week there was a lot of questions in the chat, but I can't see them to get to them. So please put them in Q&A. We love your comments in chat, though. Those are great. Today, we have Brenda Osborn. Brenda has been weaving for more than 45 years since her college classes in 1976. In the late 90s, she turned her attention to tapestry, and she soon joined the Wednesday group, which we will talk a lot more about that. She collaborated with Archie Brennan for more than a decade to document his life and work in a book that was released in 2022. She began doing kumihimo with the tutelage of one Rodrick Owen. I'm sure you know of him. Current tapestry work, she combines traditional Gobelin tapestry with kumihimo. Brenda has participated in numerous exhibitions. She's received numerous awards. She teaches workshops, and she also teaches classes at the local fine arts school in Connecticut. She has maintained a blog about fiber arts for more than a decade, and I encourage you to take a look at it. It's really entertaining. Hey, Brenda.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. I am delightfully surprised that the Connecticut Guild sponsored me for this, and I'm very thrilled to be here.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad they sponsored you. They're a great guild.
They are.
Well, let's start off with the important question, which is, what is your favorite tea?
Well, this is what I'm drinking today. It's not my favorite tea. I'm trying to fight off the beginnings of a cold that my husband had. A little black tea, lemon and honey, and I've got it in a thermos so it'll stay hot, help my throat.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it happens. We've changed locations too much, and there are germs out there.
It's that time of year. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
If you would share with us how you got started in fiber.
Yes, well, I have kind of a strange concept maybe about it. So I want to go back to like pre-memory, before I had a consciousness maybe. That both my grandmothers babysat for me while my mother worked when I was an infant. And they were terrific needle women. And I think taking naps on all the quilts I must have taken naps on just got me enthusiastic, not only about just fabric, but things you can do to fabric. They were both embroiderers. My father's grandmother's quilts were both pieced quilts and applique quilts. And so a lot of that fabric was printed. And I just spent my entire childhood wanting to know, where does fabric come from and how do you make it? And I didn't get to resolve that quest until I was in college, but I'm glad I did.
So while you were in college, did you stumble into a class? You purposely said, I want to take that, or how did that work?
Yeah, it was one of those bizarre things. It was kind of it's a college known for soccer and nursing, but their art department, this is in, the hills of New York State. Their art department always brought in an artist in residence. And so in the beginning of my sophomore year, they brought in a well-known weaver. It was Candace Cole. I don't know. You have to be of a certain age, I think. Yep. So I had a year with Candace Cole. It was awesome. Really awesome.
Oh, we used to see her all the time at the ACC show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do have her jackets.
Oh, good for you. If y'all aren't familiar with Candace Cole, you might want to Google her. She does incredible clothing. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I kind of consider you a Renaissance woman, because when I was learning about you, you do a little bit of everything. You knit, you weave, you spin, you dye, you do embroidery. So here's some more images of your works. And I was just curious, what do you think was the driving force for you to try a little bit of everything? I mean, most fiber artists never do one fiber mark, but I was curious, what was it behind you that yet got you involved in so many things?
Again, I think it's that just pre-childhood need to be closer to all this stuff and figure it out. I want to mention that the two braids on the right was something Rodrick showed me. You start with very, very few threads in each of your bundles, as you can see in the very upper right, and then inside the coil on the braid on the left. And you do a little 8-strand braid. It can be whatever you want. You bind it off, and then you add in all the other threads and bind them together and move on to whatever the next braid is. And this gives you this little loop that can be attached to a garment. It can be put at the top of a scroll for hanging. I mean, to me, this was one of the most extraordinary things I learned. It's, I needed more practice. I could do a lot more practice and get better at this, but the idea is just terrific. I love it.
Well, would you tell us some more about this piece, the jellyfish?
Yeah, it's a piece that stands on its own, but I did it to see how I would handle making a Portuguese man-of-war, which is what it was. And my husband and I were in a fairly crowded harbor on the east coast of Florida on our boat, and this Portuguese man-of-war drifted into the harbor, and it was, you know, the water's terribly dirty. So my thought was, he hasn't got much longer to live. And I called it blown off course because he wouldn't go in there on purpose, naturally. And as I made the kumihimo braids they're sort of decorative because they don't even hang the piece. The piece is mounted on that green silk fabric. But as I was making them, I thought, next time I do a Portuguese man-of-war, the tentacles will be kumihimo. So it's my plan for the future.
All right, we will look forward to seeing that piece, okay? No pressure, but we look forward to seeing that piece. Well, this kind of leads us sort of into the next question, which is, I read that you said you have made peace with progress instead of completion. And we have another tapestry of yours called it's called Caribbean. Well, actually, I'm not sure of the name. I called it the Caribbean piece. So is this a good example of that?
I guess so. I mean, I started this in 20, like March or April of 20. We were isolated in the Caribbean. We were on the island of St. Lucia. And I thought of doing these little postcards. On the left, you can see the full first postcard, which is the land with the two towers in it. And then each postcard would be surrounded by water. And I didn't know when I'd get home. And it was kind of a negative piece in my mind. But now I'm only at the beginning of the second postcard, and it's 3 years later. So the one thing I will say is I don't have a cartoon. So the thing has to evolve in my mind, and then I have to decide how I'll depict what's evolved in my mind. So I hope I finish it before the next decade comes around. But
well, I like it that you think about the progress instead of the completion. I think we all beat ourselves up about that of, oh, I don't complete anything, but we seem to ignore that we make progress. Is that true?
You know, sometimes I have 5 or 6 things that are almost done, and I spend a month and I just knuckle down and I finish them. And then it feels like, wow, look how much work I get done. But then a year and a half goes by where nothing gets done. You know, anyway, I think we all are a lot like that.
So do you have several projects going on at once?
I do.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a good thing, but I think it's part of, you know, I'm interested in this and I'm interested in that. So it's hard to stay on the straight and narrow. Deadlines.
I don't know that's a bad thing, though. I think mostly the artists I talk to, there's several things going on at once. And sometimes I think it keeps me from getting flat, you know, that you go do something else and it kind of kicks in your creativity for the next one.
I do think that. I agree.
Well, I'm also impressed with your other ways you explore, and that this next piece is I think it's spun paper, correct? That you've dyed with indigo?
Yes.
And, and that's what I mean by you being an explorer, because that's not the mainstream kind of weaving that or spinning that people do. And for some of us, this would take some courage for me to attempt this. So you seem to be undaunted. You did beautiful pieces here. So have you always been that way? Have you always been kind of fearless and trying new things? Or
I'm not sure I'd say I'm fearless, but I am stubborn and I want to succeed. So if it's not going well, I might stick with it too long, but I want to succeed. So I'll tell you that the first placemat is the one in the upper left, and the pattern just doesn't show up in it. And I took it to, it's the color of the blue that the indigo yarn arrived to me. And well, let's see how quickly I can tell this. I was infatuated with an article by Tom Knisley about 2 years ago, and he called it the paper towel. And he put a linen warp on and wove with this linen paper. So it's made from linen pulp. And he made plain weave paper towels, and they're wonderful, I thought. And I wanted to try that. So I ordered some less expensive linen paper yarn, came in a beautiful spring green. And I didn't want plain weave because I wanted that paper yarn to show. So I wove it in goose eye at about 20 inches per inch. And the longest float was 7 threads, which is about 1/3 of an inch. And I just wondered if the paper would hold up, and it did. And those kitchen towels are my favorite. They've held up for more than 2 years. So then I get the placemat idea, and I wanted to replace some hand-woven blue placemats that are now about 30 years old. And they needed replacing. And so I ordered this pale blue indigo paper yarn. It costs about 4 times as much because they dyed it. And it just wasn't enough contrast. And so it was quite a failure. So the placemat on the upper right is regular blue linen yarn. And that's the blue I wanted. It's probably leftover blue from my original linen placemats. And then I just thought I paid so much money for this paper yarn. I took it to a guild meeting and tied it in an indigo bat. And I really loved what I got. It doesn't show so well in the woven placemat that's at the bottom of the photo, but the blues really do fade in and get darker and fade lighter again, just like you see in the hanks of yarn. The downside of this is that when I started weaving, I still have one more placemat to go and I'm out of yarn. So I have taken that light blue placemat in the upper left and I've carefully cut the warps out so that I can get all that weft back and dye it and hopefully get my last 2 placemats. So
you are stubborn, aren't you?
So you see now, it's more about stubbornness than undauntedness.
I don't know. I think that's pretty undaunting. I think a lot of people would have said, yeah, 3 placemats fine. They get 2. Yeah. But they are beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing with us.
Oh, I should say that pattern is Strickler 363. In case anyone
remembered that. The one at the bottom?
All of them are.
Okay.
You just can't see it in the palest one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. 363. There you go.
Yeah.
And another way that you are an explorer, and you mentioned your boat, and I'm floored when I heard about this. This is hilarious that you go sailing for several months of the year, and this doesn't keep you from weaving or do any kind of fiber art. Like, I love this picture. This is a great picture of you on your boat weaving away. So how do you manage to weave or knit or whatever you're doing while you live on the boat in the middle of the Caribbean? I mean, it's not like you're off the shore of New York and you can run in to the city.
Oh, that's the biggest problem, is what to bring. And, you know, in terms of tapestry, I never have everything I need. Part of that is because I'm not working from an actual cartoon where I've designated all the colors I need. So it's frustrating. The upside is that everything I do, my husband has enabled for me. You know, if I want to take over all the storage on the boat, he would be okay with that. And he actually made my first electric spinner so that I could spin on a boat without a spinning wheel. And I have taken drop spindles, but you know, I prefer to go faster with a spinning wheel. So I have an e-spinner on board. You know, in terms of knitting, I usually have what I need because it is a project and this is the yarn for that project. That's easier. But it's frustrating. I get seasick a lot. A lot of the harbors in the Caribbean are not calm, and I can only really do this stuff when it's pretty calm. So I would say this is one of life's compromises, especially in a long-term relationship. It's not an easy compromise, but there you go.
I know a lot of people are going, oh, I'd love to do that. And then when they're hearing this, they're like, oh, maybe not.
Right. You know, I think people think that we float around with umbrella drinks in our hands. It is really a lot of work. It's a lot of work to live on.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you have some of your creative time. That's good. And this, you have 3 pieces in an exhibit right now. It's called Over, Under, Through the Warp, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
twine. Tapestry weavers in New England. Isn't that clever? Twine.
So 2 questions. One, when does it close? Can people still see it? And then talk some about what it means for you to be in an exhibit. Because I've talked to artists, and some artists are like, well, you know, this is how I sell. If people see my work, then I can sell it. And for some people, it's like, you know, I'm really proud of what I've done. I want people to see it, that sort of thing. Some people think of it as education for the public. What fits for you? What do you get out of being in an exhibit?
Well, first part of the question is, it's on till Sunday, April 30th.
Okay.
So we still have 2 more weekends. I'm going there Saturday to demonstrate and gallery sit. And then the following Sunday, the 30th, is when it closes, but not until 5 o'clock. So,
And where is it?
It's a beautiful art center. It's really, I've never been there. It's in Leverett, Massachusetts. The art center has a name that, you know, isn't in my head right now, but I was impressed. It's a beautiful place. And I don't sell my work ever. Well, in the old days, I sold scarves and stuff. But I don't sell tapestries. I do it for my own enjoyment. And I guess I would say being in a show with other weavers creates an incredible community that I love, as well as educating the public, because there are a lot of people who have no idea what tapestry is, and I would like to see that change. But what I've gotten out of this is just a wonderful sort of family experience with these weavers in New England. I've been a member of the group forever, but I'd never gone to an actual meeting until about a year ago. And it's a whole other way of creating a new, nurturing safe haven. We're like a tribe, you know, we have the same passions. And seeing this, you know, I haven't seen a lot of the people's work before. It's really an incredible show. I was so moved by a number of pieces that it's just amazing. So if you get there.
All right, y'all. If you're in the area, you might want to go check that out. You also teach at the Hartford Artisans Weaving Center. So again, 2 questions. Somebody just put it up. Margaret White. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Margaret. It's part of twine.
Thank you for putting that in the chat of where it is. So you teach at the Hartford Artisans Weaving Center. First question is, why do you teach? And then the second question, why teach there?
Okay. So I teach at two nonprofits in Connecticut, but I have to say Hartford Artisans is really near and dear to my heart. I teach because I feel an absolute necessity to pass it on. I think everyone in the Wednesday group had an incredible situation of learning from Archie and Susan, and we need to share it because Archie's gone now. But I have found beyond that it creates another community. You know, I show up to teach, to pass on some techniques to people. I end up learning stuff from students because you have to find a new way to convey information if someone's not following you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all end up just in a relationship together, supporting each other. And I never try to teach anything artistic, just techniques. But I want to throw a lot of artwork at them. And so I feel like that's my being a cheerleader for tapestry. I follow a lot of current tapestry weavers whose work I love, and I want everyone to see it. I think just because I'm pulled in one direction might not spark anything in a student, but showing them lots of tapestries from lots of other people might send them down their own path that it sparks their passion, you know. So I just think we have to be super inclusive, super outgoing to share everyone's work. It's all good.
Well, I read in your blog, you talked about this place and how much it meant to you. It's wonderful that even though it means so much to you, but that you're giving back to the community and what you're doing for them. I admire that you do that. A lot of people, I think, have that connection of giving back to the community.
Yeah. You know, I didn't mention this, but their what do you call it, work mission is to reach out to the elderly and to visually impaired, because this is a segment of society that can often be homebound. And when you lose socialization and you lose the ability to feel like you have a purpose, you know, your mental capacities begin to dwindle. And so it's just such a nurturing community. A lot of the weavers are visually impaired. And I hope everyone will go look at their website, Hartford Artisans, because the work done it's some of the best weaving you'll ever see. You know, I would love to have selvages like those selvages. And, you know, they're excellent weavers.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the Wednesday Weavers, and we have a picture here of you with the group, the Wednesday Weavers. There they all are. Now that's Archie off to the left, right?
Yep. And Susan back row behind him.
And I first of all, just talk to us about what is. I know a lot of people know about Wednesday Weavers. Even I did, and I'm not a tapestry artist, but I know of Wednesday Weavers. But first of all, just to introduce Wednesday Weavers to everybody and just tell us all about it, if you would.
It predates me by a few years, but it was always a group of about 12 people. And then Archie and Susan made 13 and 14. So there were always about 14 of us. And basically the group itself never really changed. I think at most 4 people have left and 4 people came in, but when you're together that long, and they were all incredibly serious weavers, the amount of encouragement and learning that went on in any of our Wednesday sessions was truly amazing. We would spend 6 hours together. We collaborated eventually after doing our own thing for a long time. We had a number of collaborations, and this is one. We're standing in front of a piece that Susan wove that's called Taxi. It's Manhattan, but it also shows part of the Hudson River. And all of our tapestries in that exhibit were of the Hudson River, because it was 2009 and it was the quadricentennial of Henry Hudson exploring that river. we had, I think, 3 venues for this show, and this photo was taken at the Kingston Arts Center. It was just, actually it's called Art Society of Kingston. We were really a family. It was terrific. When I sit down to weave, of course, I still hear Archie all the time, but a lot of other people contributed to what I know about tapestry techniques, how to fix problems. I hear their voices. They keep me online, or they keep me on the right track.
So you all physically met, what, once a month or once a week, or?
It kind of evolved over time. So in the beginning, when Archie and Susan lived in Manhattan, we met twice. No, we met 3 out of 4 weeks. And they limited how many of us could come each week. So they kind of did the 3 out of 4 weeks to give everyone a chance to have time there.
Oh.
But in the long run, we all fit in their studio anyway. It was fine. So they reduced it to once a month, and all 12 of us could come. It almost never happened, but we might have 8 of us. And it was all day, 10 to 4. And then when Archie and Susan moved way up the Hudson, almost to Albany, it was more of a hike for most of us. I have to tell you that 3 of the people, one is not in the photo, but 3 people would always commute from Washington. So for just the day. So when Archie and Susan moved to Albany, they both realized they needed to give us a chance to spend the night. So they made it 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. And we'd spend the night locally and then all get back together on Thursday. So it actually became 2 days a month then. It was, everyone was doing their own work, but the ideas would generate so many variations. I'm remembering when Archie wove his Henry VIII piece. If anyone can remember that, Henry VIII had these whiskers going on. It's pretty much a black and white piece, or charcoal and off-white, but he had all these thin whiskers on his face. And Archie was using a technique called flying shuttle. And like 4 of us in our next tapestries, we had flying shuttle going on, not as a beard, but just one woman used it as the breaking waves. She had all these bits of white, like white foam in the surf. And I used it in a sunflower. I mean, we all just, Archie's doing flying shuttle. Let's give it a try,
Well, I know that at the time, it must be really important for you to have this support group for you. So I was curious, how do you think your work would have changed if you hadn't had them as a backup? And not just the teaching part, but all aspects of the group. How do you think it would have changed?
I'm not sure I'd be weaving tapestry. I wouldn't be who I am. I couldn't have been. I had started studying tapestry with someone else before Archie, and I love her work. But this incredible devotion. The other thing was I would see that teacher, and there might be one other tapestry student in that class with me, but most of the people in the room were painters. It wasn't the mix. The Wednesday group, we called ourselves the Wednesday group. It was a bonding. It was excellent. It was like getting together with your extended family, and you had your favorite cousins and your less favorite cousins, but it wouldn't have worked unless all the cousins were there.
Did you know at the time what it was going to be, how important it would be, not just for you all, but historically?
I don't know that I still know that. I'm always surprised when people have heard of the Wednesday group. But what I did know from before I joined was that this was a great group of serious weavers, and I would love to be part of it. But it always surprises me when someone says, I know the Wednesday group. Like, really?
With great envy in their voice.
I don't know.
That kind of support and I don't know, kinship or whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
That's enviable to be able to have something like that.
Yeah,
Well, the other part of it is having Susan and Archie in your life like that. And I'm aware that you met Archie through the Wednesday group and that you had a relationship with him. And that from that relationship that you wrote the book, Archie Brennan, Tapestry and Modern Art. Now, can you talk about how that came about? I mean, I don't assume that y'all looked at each other one day and said, let's do a book. So how did that progress over time?
So it had been on my mind. I had done something similar, but in an entirely different subject matter about 10 years earlier. So it was taking someone else's life and yeah, I'm not sure how to say it, but anyway, so it had been on my mind, and another woman in the group sort of threw it out about doing a book about Archie. That would be Barbara Burns. But in the long run, I felt the need that it had to be entirely Archie's voice. And so I worked with him. He wrote down everything new. He wrote down lots of biographical or autobiographical stuff for me, but he also had a treasure trove of things he had written that had been published in various textile magazines. And he wrote some new essays about tapestry in general, art in general, and about specific pieces of his. And the sad thing was that his health went down before we could assemble how this was going to work and what images to include. And then for me, he died very unexpectedly. So I was left with all this fantastic stuff, and I had made him a promise. So I just sort of lurched along. I like what happened. I like the outcome a lot. And 6 months or so ago, I found some pieces that did not get included and that I had, I'd read them and decided against them, but I don't think I'd ever read this page from his notebook. And he must have written it around 1996, which was before I started studying with him. And the label on the page is, to write a book or not? And he said, if I wrote a book, it would have these things in it. And son of a gun, we nailed them all. So,
oh, good.
That made me feel really good. So he had said he would not have an instruction book. It would be there would be some memoir, there would be his thoughts on his pieces, there would be his feelings about art, and it did cover all that. And I'm happy to say there is an instruction vehicle for studying with Archie. So I hope everyone realizes that and will get they used to be DVDs. Now I think you get a link for a video streaming, but it's 16 hours of Archie weaving and you follow along. It's fabulous. I think you can find out about that through Susan's website.
Well, it's an amazing book. If you're the least bit interested in tapestry at all, or especially Archie's work, I would encourage you to get the book. Just for nothing else, the images are just amazing. You chose beautiful works, and the quality that you've done with the book is really wonderful. And I'm sure he's looking down, being very proud of what you've done.
I do wish he had been able to see it, but hopefully. And I did this as a volunteer because none of us could ever repay him for what he's done for all of us. Even if you had him for a weekend workshop, I'm sure everyone in those walked away feeling like, I just got tons more than I ever paid for, so.
Yeah, if somebody wanted to get the book, can they get it from you, Amazon, their favorite bookstore?
I understand you can get it from your favorite bookstore. So if you order it from Schiffer, you pay full retail, which is $65. And if you order it from Amazon, you get it for $55. And yes, I have them. I have to buy them and I get an author's discount. And I only sell them as an author's discount. So you would just pay what I pay, but then of course there would be shipping. So I don't recommend that for anyone except people I bump into, where I can just hand you the book. So I did hear from various people that if you request it at your local favorite bookstore, you can also get it that way. Schiffer does have a big, it's Schiffer Publishing. They have a big distribution. You know, I was able to send the book to his children, and one of the children lives in Australia, and Schiffer covered the cost of that. They've been really generous, and I've heard back from all the kids, and they're moved that the book is out there. They're happy to have it. It thrills me.
Well, I have to say that I look through it and I keep thinking, this cannot be tapestry. You know, this cannot be a woven picture. It's just, you know, the detail and scale. It's wonderful.
I'm particularly happy with the images that are so high resolution that they're shown sort of bigger than they really are, because then I think students can follow exactly what he did. And there's a lot to learn in the shapes and curves that he used if you just copy some part of it as an exercise. You learn a lot.
Well, I always ask this because I know how difficult and time consuming it is to write a book. And I can't help but wonder, you know, if I was sitting down writing a book about me, I know I'd want to say, and I'd probably be able to find the image I want, but I cannot imagine how much work it was talking about someone else and getting the right image and, you know, making sure you have the correct information, because if it was about me, I would know whether that information is correct or not, but you don't. You have to double check. So I would imagine this book probably was a great deal of work. And I guess, not to put you on the spot, but if you had it to do all over again, would you do it again? And would you do it differently?
I have thought. So at the moment, I'm like, no, I can't do that again. On the other hand, there is the occasional weaver in my life, very few of them, and one is standing out in my head. You know, it would have to be someone I'm really close to that I want to share with the rest of the world, because that was my biggest motivation with Archie. Is he is getting older. A lot of us from, say, 2 generations know him pretty well, but what about all those future generations? And he had all these articles and all these other periodicals, but I was able to like get them all in one place. And so there is kind of a temptation to do that for someone else as well. But it has to be someone I know well. It would be hard to do for someone I'm not personally attached to, you know.
Mm-hmm. Would you do anything differently?
Well, I would hope that this weaver would live to contribute, like, no, I want it in this order. And no, I want this, you know. I didn't like the open-endedness of me making all those choices.
Well, it appears to me that you made wonderful choices. So,
well, thank you.
Good on you. So what, other than writing this next book, which I know you're going to do, what's next for you?
Well, I did spend at least the past 8 years pretty much not weaving, because it's embarrassing, but I had terrible guilt. How can I weave my own stuff when this book is sitting here? So I have a lot of catching up on weaving to do. And I have felt uninspired by the things I have done. I think it was all about learning techniques and learning to weave what you see. So a lot of my work is very representational, when the kind of tapestries of other people's that I enjoy are because there's some sort of strong emotional connection that isn't always a realistic. So I've been trying to become more abstract.
Really?
And I would say last summer, I kind of got some ideas that might work. So I'm pursuing that. So I'm happy about that. And I have started a teaching situation, long distance. So it's all through email so far, where a blind woman in the Midwest contacted Hartford Artisans and asked if someone could help her weave tapestries. And she has already woven a few. She had someone take pictures and send them to me. And so this is a challenge for both of us because I can't illustrate anything with words. I mean, without word, beyond words.
Yeah.
And it's getting off to what I would say is a bumpy start, all on me, not her. And today I wove a sample with various shapes in it, and I'm hoping I'm going to mail it to her. I want her to see if she can feel some things. I want to know how we're going to get through this. But if this is her choice of how she wants to express herself, I think hopefully more than just me, some of us have to step up to the plate and figure out how to do it.
That may be your next book.
And lastly, this is exciting. On May 1st, I'm going with 11 other people on a tour of Japan with Tom Knisley and Sarah Bixler, a textile tour of Japan.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty excited about that.
That is exciting.
Yeah. I signed up for it ages ago, and now it's almost here. It's becoming real.
Well, I'm assuming the focus of it will be fiber.
Oh, yes. So we'll be looking at some sakiori weaving, some seori weaving. I just lost the word of the wonderful dye work, Kasuri Dye Works. I'm hoping we'll see some braiding. But,
yeah. How long will you be there?
Well, I leave on the 1st and get home on the 21st, but some of that just travel time and a few extra.
Yeah.
I think it's about a 2-week tour.
Oh, how wonderful.
And I'm going with a dear old friend, and I'm sure the other 8 people are weavers, and then there's Tom and Sarah. So
I wonder if there's an editor watching that might want a story out of that for a certain magazine.
Oh, yes, maybe a collaborative story. All our impressions.
Well, we have lots of questions. How about we go talk to some folks? You want to do that?
Absolutely.
All right. Catherine Messina wants to know, can you share your source for linen/paper yarn?
Oh, yes. Should have mentioned that. If you have hand woven, you'll look back and get the exact name of it, but it's from Habu.
Habu, okay.
And so one of them is very reasonably priced, and that's the one I made the paper towels with. The other one with the indigo dyeing is quite a bit more, and it's such a pale blue. Didn't work for me. So dye your own.
That's how you learn, right?
Yeah.
Here we go. They want to know about your lovely scarf. That's from Mary Holmes.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to talk about it. I did not weave this. So this is from, let's see if I can get it in there. This is from Hartford Artisans. I've lost the name. I tried to save all the tags, so I don't know who wove it. But I'll tell you that it was designed, and the war colors were also designed by Fran Curran, who is one of the founders, and she's a marvelous weaver, but one of the artisans. So possibly a visually impaired woman wove it. I have tags for everything I bought from them, but once you cut the tag off, and I have them all saved, I no longer know which name goes with it. So I'm sorry about that. But I should also say, if you can see this, the grays are shaded, and if the lighter color is a gray, and it often shades into the palest pink. And then the reds are everything from sort of orangey tomato to a bright coral to like a cranberry. So that adds to the interest, and it's deflected double weave. And I'm sure it's an 8 harness deflected double weave. So there you go. These women do, and a couple of men do, incredible work at Hartford Artisans.
That's amazing. That is so wonderful.
It
Mandy
is.
loves it too. And yes, Michaela, it is deflected double weave. Let's see who else we've got. Elisa Iger, do you still teach multi-shaft loom weaving, kumihimo, etc., as well as tapestry? She said, I recall fondly when you taught me domino knitting and how to
Oh,
use my AVL warping wheel. You are a very patient teacher.
oh my God, I have goosebumps. Elisa, hello.
Way to
Elisa,
go, Elise.
yes.
Janet Ducati
Oh, she was
said,
in the Wednesday group before me.
oh, okay. She just wanted to say hello. I was
Hello,
part of the Wednesday group too before you in 97, 98. I helped out with our first group exhibits. I'm sorry we never met. Hopefully someday.
yeah, I can clearly remember one of Janet's tapestries. Very vivid. Green background, pink donuts. It was all those, imagine all those circles. Donuts, balls. Yeah, it was lovely.
Well, thank you for watching today, Jan. We appreciate it. Jane Kaplan wants to know, do you teach online? And that she loves your work.
Oh, thank you. I don't yet. I
Yeah.
don't want to step on anyone, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. There are some people teaching online tapestry. They have different techniques than I do, but I started making some videos that I just put on YouTube. I have a long way to go, but there are a couple. So I think it's under my name, Brenda Osborn, but some kumihimo videos and some tapestry videos.
Someone just put in chat, there's room for everyone. And there is. If you're going to show something a little different than someone else, that's wonderful.
Right.
Mary McMillan wants to know, I have a book. Oh, she has the book. Love it. I'm sure soon she's talking about your book that you wrote. Is there an explanation of flying shuttle in it? I don't see it in the index, but Henry VIII tapestry is in there. Yeah, I don't know what a flying shuttle is as far as tapestry.
So we all wove from the front. So we have a lot of bobbins, and our loose ends are on the back. And if you take the black of his beard and you say, oh, I want a stripe like right here. Now I'm weaving upwards, let's say. I'll bring that black forward here and I'll weave a little more. And then when I'm here, I'll put it back in. And now I have this, almost like embroidery. You have this line of thread that's not really woven in, but it's not embroidered after the fact. Because for a long time, if you embroidered or you did some other things that, oh, that's not tapestry. And if you had that bobbin hanging there in the warp and you moved it around, then it wasn't considered embroidering. It's flying shuttle.
All right, there's some guy that keeps putting comments in here. His name's Bob.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I do have a little fan club, a fan club of Bob.
Anyway, Bob is Brenda's husband. If you haven't seen it on the chat, he's saying, I've been trying to convince Brenda to teach online. Just saying.
Yeah. Anyway.
He earlier did say that you were a very good sport about the sailing. So good guy.
I also wonder, how does it work to teach online if you go away for 4 or 5 months? I'm not sure it works,
Sure it does. You're online. People can just watch it until you get back.
Yeah.
See, I'm not sure I'm going to read this correctly, but this is from Betty Guderud. Sorry, I'm terrible at names. It's not a question, but she said that as Anna, old occupational therapist, perhaps you could get together with an older OT to help that blind lady do tapestry. And that OT is a good option. I mean,
I hadn't thought of that. I'm consulting some of the blind or at least somewhat visually impaired people at Harvard Artisans. Like, help me out here.
Yeah.
But OT, thank you. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing what you find out with Textiles and Tea? Everybody learns something.
That's right. That is right.
This is from Melody Sarah. Is it Sarah or Sarah? Sarah. I know you know her. She's been putting in all kinds of comments. When you think about color choice, are you just being intuitive about it? Or is there something you're thinking about when you're choosing your colors? Great question, Melody.
I often, yeah, I hope I will answer this thoroughly. So a particular tapestry came to mind, which had very simple colors in it. It's behind me. I
Well,
don't know
people are asking about the tapestries behind you too.
right. So it's the pears. So all I had was an outline of, of pears. And choosing the colors was really important to me for some, it's more of a cartoon. It's just like simple pears. And it went fairly well, I thought, choosing the colors. And I wove it sideways. So I'm weaving sort of one pair at a time.
Oh, okay, okay.
Last pair, and I swear it was like a life and death decision. What should the last pair be? And it's just a cartoon. So like, really, who cares? But so I feel like I react to color. And so I'm just trying to place it so that I'm reacting well to what I'm doing. So it is kind of intuitive. And in tapestry, well, in any weaving, you don't know what you've got till you've woven quite a bit of it. Because when you weave sort of a blended 50-50 mix of colors, they're changing how they react to each other. And in this, choosing that last color, which was the dark purple pair at the end, I had to get at least halfway through that pair before you could decide if you like it. So in terms of more realistic tapestries, I did learn that often if you're like weaving a tree or a mountain or there's a scene in the background, it's just really about light and shadow. And so you've got to pick the colors that feel good together, but create that light and shadow. It's somewhat of an illusion. And so it's not as detailed as you think it is, it's just.
Wow, you know what? You sound like a teacher.
All right, sorry.
And you're online.
Zip.
Combination. So you're talking about intuitive, and a couple of times you talked about that you didn't use a cartoon. Do you normally not use a cartoon? Do you kind of just go as you go, or am I misunderstanding?
I never use a detailed cartoon.
Oh, okay.
And that's something that just eventually got instilled into me from Archie. Now, Susan, I don't think ever uses a cartoon. So it would be amazing. Everybody wove while we were there. Archie and Susan did their own work while we were there, and then they stopped when we had questions. So I saw that she just had a blank warp and she would weave. Archie, on the other hand, would have, some outlines of things, but he never had, little shapes drawn in with color in them or anything. And he called it the open journey. If you nail yourself down, then you're stuck with it. But if you just allow it to happen, just even a little bit, allow it to happen, you'll find you try things and you get better. And I like that.
People want to know about the tapestry behind you. That's the Caribbean, right? On the
partial,
yeah.
If I leave it out, maybe I'll work on it. I'm going to take it this Saturday when I gallery sit up in Massachusetts. So
okay.
Maybe I'll work on it.
Well, you may have an audience coming just to see it after this program today. If you could choose, this is from Patricia Biting. I think it's Biting. If you could choose only one fiber to practice with, which would it be? And she said, love how you're interested in so many things.
That would be painful. I guess it would be tapestry, at least today in this moment, but that would be really hard. It's like that question, if you're on a desert island, what one song would you bring on a CD? Oh.
Yeah, that would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Somebody else wanted to know, do you normally just use wool?
I would say over the course of my tapestries, most of them are wool.
Okay.
But I blend a lot. The tapestry you showed, which happens to be my son, had a lot of cottons in it. And I've used linen as well. I've used linen so that the linen and the warp are the same. I did one of a medieval sailboat, and it was interesting. the warp and the weft were the same, and I am covering the warp, but it did show up nicely anyway. So in a hot climate, it would be, oh, that little Portuguese man of war is all cotton and silk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
Oh,
it
okay.
needed to be shiny. It was a water scene. So
Oh, yeah. Never thought of that.
mm,
All right.
anyway,
Well, I can't believe it. We have to stop for the day.
this has been a thrill for me. Thank you.
You've been wonderful. I love listening to you. I felt like I needed to do 2 programs with you, one about your book and Archie, but another one about you as an artist. So thank you so much for blending those 2 together so well.
Can I say one last thing? You know, it's all about being the cheerleader. And if there's anyone out there who might love tapestry, the American Tapestry Alliance website has got a lot of educational material on it, and it's got people's work on it, so you can see all kinds of things. And a lot of it's available even if you're not a member. And I just think if people look at that, they might spark a passion. So
I have to agree with you. ATA does an incredible job of supporting their artists, you know, the ones who are out there, but also helping new artists. And Jen Rogers posted the tapestryalliance.org.
Yeah.
That's their website.
Yeah.
So I encourage you all go check that out. You are a good cheerleader, Brenda. You go.
Thanks.
Now we're going to cheer for you. And you also have, I'm going to save all the chat for you. There's all kinds of people telling you to go teach online. You got your own cheerleading section.
Oh, now my husband will be incorrigible.
Way to go, Bob.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank our sponsor today. It was the, I'm sorry. If you want to get a hold of Brenda, this is her website, argonaut.com. And again, check out her blog. It was delightful. It was just wonderful to read it. And I hope you have time to keep doing it because I know you're a busy woman, Brenda. But check out her website, argonaut.com. And I want to thank our sponsor today, which is the Handweavers Guild of Connecticut. And just to let you know, they have an exhibit going on right now. It is their biennial member show. I think I'm saying that right. The name of it is Ancient Art, Modern Artisans. It's on right now until the 29th of April. Again, if you're in their area, you might want to go check it out. So thank you again, Connecticut, Handweavers Guild of Connecticut, for sponsoring us today and bringing us Brenda. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. If you would like to sponsor an episode of Textiles and Tea, or your guild or your business, please go to our website at weavespindye.org and you can sign up to sponsor an episode. We would appreciate it. Part of the way that we are able to bring you the programming that we do is through the support of our members, either through the donation to the Fiber Trust, by being a sponsor of one of our many events, or through your membership. And that's how we're able to bring you the special programs like Career in Textiles or Spinning and Weaving Week. All those things are not covered by your membership. It's through the donations to the Fiber Trust and sponsorships. So we thank you all so much so that we can keep bringing you new programming, fun programming like this. Today, if you missed an episode and you want to watch it again, or you want to go back and have a friend join you to watch, you can see all of the episodes on the Facebook page, HGA Facebook page. And you can also watch it on YouTube. And I would encourage you to sign up. If you do, if you're subscribing to it, you'll get a notice saying when a new episode has been uploaded. It usually takes us a little while to get an episode loaded up, maybe a couple of weeks, but they're all on there also. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We had a wonderful time. Thank Brenda again for being on here. Again, check her out at argonaut.com. Next week, we have Maria Sigma, another tapestry person I think you'll be interested in. Thank you all so much. Have a great week and happy tea.